Hey there, welcome back to another video. This time around, it is my review of the 1985 biographical drama film, Mask. Now, Mask is a film that, when it came out, it was honestly a surprise hit financially and critically, especially when you consider the film's subject matter. A movie about a deformed young teenager definitely doesn't seem like something that screams box office hit. But the movie resonated with audiences, and it still resonates with audiences today. Honestly, probably just as much as it did back when the film came out in the mid 1980s. It was a film that was also a pretty big staple on television throughout multiple decades, all the way from like the 80s, the 90s, and even the 2000s, because I think that's when I saw the film, was when I was younger. I don't remember what channel I saw it on, but I did see the film on TV for the first time. And it wasn't a film that I would say was an instant classic for me at the time, but it was a movie that I did like, and it was a film that stuck with me because of the fact that it centered around this young man who was born with this facial deformity. And not only that, because he was this young teenager who was different, I guess because of the fact that I was autistic, and I was dealing with my own issues, and when it comes to that, the film connected with me on a deeper level because I could really relate to Rocky. I could really connect with him in that kind of way because I was different. I felt like I wasn't normal when it comes to the other teenagers or other kids or other people. I didn't have a facial deformity, but I felt like there was a different kind of deformity. Because of my autism. So it was definitely a film that really made me think and really led to a lot of introspective thoughts when I was younger when I first saw the film. And I think the way that it made me feel is probably why I didn't really want to watch it again, because it was really bringing up a lot of feelings and stuff that I wasn't necessarily fully comfortable with at the time. For instance, the funhouse scene really stuck with me because it made me think about what it might be like if I saw myself as normal. What if I didn't have these other things going on with me? Like, what if I was like the other kids at school? So it's a film that, because of that, was kind of something that really touched upon stuff that was a little too deep for me and a little too emotional. But after watching it again, after all of these years, and just really being more ready for those kind of emotions, and having had more experiences in life, it's a film that honestly I appreciate even more. I think this is an excellent film. I think this is a great film for the most part, and really, there's only just a few things that I would honestly do differently, and a lot of those things have to do with the film's screenplay. But before I get around to sharing more of my thoughts on the film, though, I would like to give a special shout out to Sean for requesting this review. And if there is another film, TV show, or topic that you would like to see me discuss in the future, feel free to donate to either my PayPal, my Patreon, or my Cash App. The links to all three are in the video description down below, and I will try to get to your requests as soon as I possibly can. Now, Mask is directed by Peter Bogdanovich, And this was his first film that he did after a pretty long hiatus as a director after the tragic death of his girlfriend, Dorothy Stratton. And Dorothy is the reason why he chose this film as his return project, because she was really compassionate and really compelled by stories and by people who weren't born with the same kind of beauty or looks that she was born with. And she was very fascinated with people who were given, the opposite. And that led to her being really involved in researching the Elephant Man and other people who might be born with similar sort of deformities. And Peter remembered that, and when this script wound up on his desk, he just felt like, okay, this was fate. I've got to do this for Dorothy. And uh, you can definitely sense that. You can just sense that he wanted to make this film for Dorothy and give it everything that he has. And it really led to one of his most personal films as a director as a result, because he takes his already established talents as a director and the different tricks of the trade that he's learned over the years, and he implements them with this smaller film about this young man with a facial deformity in a small town, and creates something that really felt very real and very raw. And he's a director that is very well known for chronicling Americana, the small town settings, and just really finding a way to put a lens on these different maybe lesser known or off the beaten path aspects of America and places in America and people. And Mask just feels like something that was very tailor made for Bogdanovich as a result. And he does a lot of shots that are very much intended to be in deep focus. He's a director who likes to have a certain kind of up close and personal style of directing, but he also normally does it in a particular way. But because of the fact that Cher, who was cast in the film, was having a difficult time on set, he decided to adjust his way of shooting the film and shoot a lot of her scenes with more tight close-up shots. And it just shows how flexible he was willing to be for a project that he was very passionate about, because he had this very personal connection to it because of the fact that it was something that really spoke to him, because this was subject matter that really spoke to Dorothy. And his framing is really solid when it comes to every scene in the film. And he also does a really great job with camera angles and pans and zooms and tight shots or wide shots. It just creates a film that really has this very down home kind of feel to it. And I think that also helps the movie in terms of really allowing you to get to know Rocky and his family, and really not just root for them, or root for Rocky in particular, but also feel for them. And it just creates a film that definitely has a certain emotional connection to it. And a lot of it really is through the visuals. And there's just a lot of care that he put into the visuals as well. The opening scene, for instance, he deliberately blocked it in a way that it didn't try to scare the audience with Rocky's appearance. That he wanted to kind of slow play it, so to speak, and build up to it, and not in a way that's supposed to be suspenseful or full of any sort of tension, but just in a way that's more laid back and relaxed. So then when you do see his face, it's not something that's shocking. And that just really showcases how much he understood the film that he was making, and also how much he cared about it. Like, he was willing to go the extra mile to block that scene visually in a way that wasn't so arresting to the audience. It wasn't something that was like a jolt, because he wanted the audience to feel a certain way about Rocky and about the film as a whole. And that attention to detail is just present in every shot in the film. And really, if you look at his filmography, he's done some stuff after this that's not too bad, but you could argue that this was like his last really tremendous triumph as a director. And I think he absolutely deserved every accolade that he got for his work on this film. And I definitely feel that having a director who has that kind of personal connection to this source material and to the story of Rocky Dennis is definitely something that allows this movie to really shine. And if there was another director who was doing it, I don't know if it really would have worked as well, because I think other directors might have had a very different approach to it and might have made it more exploitative in nature, and instead of something that's more down to earth, which is definitely what I feel the film really needed. And it's a big part of why the film resonated with so many people who saw it back in the 80s. So yeah, I think Bogdanovich's direction was really a special, really strong work overall. The screenplay by Anna Hamilton Phelan, for the most part, I think is a good script. I think a big part of why the film has so much heart and actually does provide some genuine, strong emotions throughout is because of the strength of the screenplay and how it humanizes Rocky and makes you sympathize with him and also with his family. And I like how it introduces Rocky as just really a normal teen, a normal 16-year-old teenager who likes Bruce Springsteen and is just enjoying life. And his mindset is inspiring. That somebody who was born with such a, in a lot of ways, horrific facial deformity is still finding a way to really look at the bright side in life. And he's doing everything that he can to just enjoy the life that he has, even despite the cards that he was dealt. And he goes on to have this attitude that is not self-defeating most of the time. In fact, he's willing to poke fun. He's willing to join in on the jokes, or he in a lot of ways disarming this whole deformity by his approach to it. And he doesn't let it hold him back. He still gets involved in the hobbies that he loves and collecting baseball cards, and he still makes friends at school, and he still does well in school. Like, he excelled in academics, even though he was dealing with everything that he was dealing with when it comes to this facial deformity. and the side effects of it. And I think this is a great story when it comes to really putting people's life in perspective. It's the kind of film that I think people should definitely see for a multitude of reasons, but one of them is definitely that. Having a story that is able to really make people think about not just how their life could be worse, but how when life throws certain things at you, uh, you don't necessarily have to allow it to trample you or run you over or tear you down. And you can look at somebody like Rocky, who is someone who, by all intents and purposes, could easily just really be someone who doesn't really want to excel in academics, doesn't really want to do all these things and put themselves out there in the public and try to make all these new friends and do all this other stuff. Somebody who easily, in a lot of ways, could have a viable reason for giving up on life, but he never did, all the way until the end. And when you see that somebody who is given that particular raw deal, so to speak, at birth, and they're still able to make the best out of it, that's some really inspiring stuff, and it definitely can really light a fire under you to make you realize, man, like if he can do all that, then whatever I'm dealing with, it's nothing in comparison. Like I can go out and do whatever I want to do and be whatever I want to be. And I really like that this screenplay really emphasizes all of that. And I also like how it handles things with his mom. Uh, his mother, Rusty, she's very headstrong and stubborn and also a very flawed character. She struggles with addiction to alcohol or drugs, but the screenplay still shows her putting her son first. It still shows her, despite all of that, despite her having these self-destructive tendencies, it shows her being willing to break out of that cycle or break out of whatever haze she is in when her son needs her. And she's there for him. And I really love that aspect of the script. And I like the fact that, she's a rough and tumble, tell it like it is biker chick. And I like that, you have Gar, who's a member of Rocky's biker family, who ultimately is kind of a father figure to him. And I like that throughout the course of the story, Gar and Rusty actually do wind up getting together, and they have their own rocky patches in their relationship, but they find a way to still remain strong and stick together. Uh, um, and I like that there are some other stuff too involving the family. Like you get to see different people who are a part of the biker family, who are Rusty's friends, who Rocky is also connected with, and they love Rocky, and they even support him and stand up for him, when people are trying to, bring him down or insult him or give him crap. I like the dynamic between Rocky and his friend Ben, but I do feel that how their friendship splits apart at the end is a little too bumpy, because the way that it's written, Rocky acts like a total dick, really, to Ben when he finds out that Ben's going to move away. And there's not really a moment where he realizes that he was in the wrong. And it felt a little out of character for Rocky because of the way that he was written as a character throughout the majority of the film. And speaking of other dynamics with Rocky, I really like the stuff with him and Diana, the blind girl, and how he he really finds a way to connect with her, not in just a romantic way, but in a way that really enriches her life and her view of life in general. Despite being blind, he goes out of his way to try to find a way to make her feel what colors and feel what certain things uh, uh, might appear to be, or it's kind of a hard thing to explain. But for instance, he finds something that can feel like it's pillowy to show her what something would look like if it's pillowy, and so on and so forth. And the fact that he just goes out of his way to do that is just really sweet. And I felt that their love story that blossoms is really lovely and charming, and definitely adds an extra tragic note to the story uh, because of how it ultimately ends. Because it really felt like there was a genuine bond there. And this young blind girl, Diana, really had feelings for Rocky, and Rocky had feelings for her, and they were definitely an odd couple, so to speak. And Diana's parents really did not want Rocky to be with her because he's not normal. He's very abnormal, and they were very taken aback by him actually when they first saw him. And so they're trying to keep him away from their daughter. But their genuine love for one another, it can't be tamed. It can't be contained. And Rocky even goes out of his way and gets on a bus and goes to see her. And when you know that he did that because he realized that his time was short, it makes that whole last scene with him and Diana in some ways devastating, really, because of the fact that he knew. And he knew the entire time. He was supposed to have passed away and not made it to 16. And he always knew that someday could be his last. So he lived life to the fullest in the short amount of time that he was on on this earth. And he had these big dreams. He wanted to go on a motorcycle trip to Europe, and sadly he was never able to do that because by the end of the story, by the end of the film, just like in real life, one morning Rocky doesn't wake up, and he dies in his sleep. And his mom actually finds him the next morning, and it's a rough scene. I definitely cried watching that sequence. But any film that can actually make you feel real emotions is a really good movie, and that's a great story because and it's not in a manipulative way either. I didn't think this was manipulating you. Like, this was actually a real tragic story because of, everything that was involved with it. Yeah, the fact that Rocky was born with what he was born with, and how, it caused him so much pain and so many other issues in his life. but because of his perspective and his mindset and the support that he had of his family, he was able to rise above that. And I even love how there are moments when he stands up for himself. Like, there are people bullying him, and he's all like, I'll take off my mask if you take off yours. Like, he is not somebody who is like a pushover, despite, his place in life, and despite what he's dealing with, and what he was born with. And a lot of people have these assumptions about him, that he's disabled mentally as well, but he fights back against that and does very well in school. And there's a lot of aspects of Rocky that I think a lot of people can relate to. And I think that's why the film really has a story that is so strong. It's because he's a very relatable person, despite his appearance. And so when you get to know this young man on a fairly deep level, you get to see his journey and his daily struggles, and how he finds a way to rise above them, and just to see him eventually not wake up. That's really, really sad. And when you see the impact that it has on his loved ones, it makes things even more tragic. And I think that this is one of those rare, like, tearjerker kind of stories that really still works in a very authentic way when it comes to those particular emotions. And it's not all just depressing, sad stuff either. See, that's the other thing that I really liked about this script, is that there are moments that are also inspiring involving Rocky, but there's some fun moments of levity, with some of the characters, or some of the dynamics between Rocky and his biker family, or some of the people at school. And so it isn't one of those things where it just feels like it's just a dirge and just a really depressing, sad kind of slog. It still has this certain sunny nature to it, despite, the tragedy of it all. And as great as the screenplay is, the cast is also a major part of why this film is so good, especially Eric Stoltz. Eric Stoltz as Rocky is remarkable. This is a remarkable performance by Eric Stoltz. He had to act under pounds and pounds and pounds of makeup. And what's interesting is, in terms of the casting, Rob Lowe was actually originally considered to play the role, because apparently he nailed his audition. But Eric Stoltz auditioned and added some different sort of quirks, some different things with the way he was using his voice. And that really won Bogdanovich over. And so Eric Stoltz wound up getting the role instead. And Stoltz, he went through just a hell when it comes to this shoot, because of just how long it took to put on the makeup by Michael Westmore and Zoltan Elliott, and also, how it would make you feel, because the makeup was so effective and so well done that it looked like the real thing. And Eric went way above and beyond when it comes to his approach to this performance. He would actually go out into public with the makeup on and experience what it would be like to be Rocky. And according to Eric, it was horrible, because people really treated him poorly. And that's the reality of it. That's really what would happen. They would treat you as a freak. And Eric got to experience that, and he added that and brought that to his performance and made it just all the more real as a result. And not every actor would really be willing to go that far, but he did. And it's a big part of why that performance is so good. And Cher is also phenomenal herself as Rusty. She adds her own eccentricities to the character, her own signature charm, but also shows moments of very deep vulnerability. Shows her addicted to drugs, shows her in a drug haze, shows her not doing her best and being at a pretty low point. But this is, in my opinion, a performance that was worthy of an Oscar nomination, as well as Eric Stoltz. I don't know how Eric wasn't nominated for an Academy Award for his performance in this. I really don't know why. And Cher, to this day, this is one of her, I think she said it was her favorite role as an actress. And she's gone above and beyond for people who were born with the same affliction that Rocky was born with, craniofacial dysplasia. Because she actually is a part of a group that actually provides assistance for people who are born with that. She helps with charity work. And I just think that's beyond admirable on her part. And you could definitely tell that it was a role that really stuck with her. But what's crazy is she had a really hard time working on the set and getting along with the director, Peter Bogdanovich. But she didn't let it prevent her or hold her back from really delivering one of her best performances. And that just shows how much of a professional she is as an actress. And the rest of the supporting cast is good too. Sam Elliott is Gar, and Estelle Getty is Evelyn, Rusty's mom, and Richard Dysart as Rusty's father. And of course, Laura Dern is Diana, who does such a convincing job playing a blind girl that people actually thought she was blind after she did this movie, to the point where some people were actually surprised that she wasn't blind. And then, you got some other people too, like Dennis Burkley as Dozer, and Harry Carey Jr. as Red, and Lawrence Monoson from Last American Virgin as Ben, Rocky's best friend. Yeah, it's a really strong cast. And then you have some really nice cinematography by Laszlo Kovacs, and it features some great editing by Barbara Ford. And the music by Dennis Ricotta, I don't mind, but really it's the Springsteen songs that really make the biggest impression when it comes to the music for the film. I know in the theatrical version it has Bob Seger songs, but for me personally, I think the Springsteen songs work so much better because Springsteen is what Rocky loved. Like, he was a huge fan of Springsteen, and that's really why Peter wanted Springsteen songs in the film as a way to give back to Rocky. And even Rusty, Rocky's mom, even mentioned how just Bob Seger, like, my son didn't even know who that guy was. So she definitely didn't understand why Bob Seger was in the theatrical version. And the reason was, of course, money issues. Universal didn't want to pay up. But what was crazy is Peter knew Springsteen personally, and he got his permission. So I think all Universal probably had to do is just talk to Bruce, and he probably would have given them some kind of discount or smoothed things over or made things work out. But I guess they didn't even decide to do that. Instead, last minute, they just changed the soundtrack. And it definitely changes the film. And some people prefer it, but I personally don't. They like the version that they grew up with more, with the Bob Seger songs. I think it fits the tone of the film more and the characters more. And in some way I can understand that, but that's not really what Peter was trying to do. He had those Springsteen songs in there for a reason, because the real Rocky Dennis was a big Springsteen fan. But anyway, I really don't know what else to say about the film, except this is a film that can be kind of a hard watch at points because of, how genuinely tragic it is, but I would still highly recommend it. I think it's a really good film. But anyway, thank you for watching my review of Mask, and as always, I'll see you later. See ya.